Assignment 29. Deduke Luck. I woke up early on New Year's Eve. Not Christmas early, but still. Dad was standing over the stove, scrambling a pan of eggs. Next to him, he had an open carton of eggs, all new and freshly bought, intact, uncracked. Happy New Year's Eve, he said. I sat at our table, and he slid the eggs onto two plates, placing them in front of us, and sitting beside me. Are these eggs some kind of message? I asked. It was the first time he'd made eggs since Christmas. Is this a therapist trick? Look, Natalie, look what can come from cracked eggs. But Dad said it's just breakfast, and I decided to believe that. I took a bite of my just breakfast and pretended eggs were just eggs. I noticed our Christmas flower you got for your mother is still sitting in the greenhouse. Dad was taking his fake happy voice. You should give it to her today, as a New Year's present. Suddenly I felt sick, and the eggs turned funny in my stomach. Dad must have noticed, because he started to get that concerned look in his eyes. Maybe later, I said, and when he opened his mouth to say something else, I interrupted fast, with the first thing that came to my head. I want to make Grandma's Duke this year. And that stopped him right in his tracks. He set his fork down and cleared his throat, but he didn't respond right away. The thing was, every year Mom and Grandma's Duke, it was our tradition to eat the chewy treat on New Year's. Good luck and long life and stuff. But Dad had never made it. About 5 years ago, Mom discovered the Japanese tradition of making mochi on New Year's. She skipped over to Dad, pointed to a page in foreign foods cooking cookbook she was reading, and said, We've been missing out on all this luck. Everybody loves good luck. We should make this with your mom. My mother's Korean, Dad laughed, amused by Mom's enthusiasm. Wrong kind of Asian. Dad was eager to play his role. He was the steady one, the one who talked Mom down from her chaos. But when Mom called Grandma and suggested it, Grandma was all on board. Good luck is good luck, she said. But we make Korean mochi, Duke. Grandma sent Mom a recipe, and Mom Americanized and adapted it. But she called Grandma every year as she made it, chatting about ingredients and measurements and life. If our family ever needed luck, it was now. Smegs needed all the help it could get in the egg drop competition. I needed all the help I could get. And if Mom didn't seem interested in making any luck this year, I would. Dad pushed his plate of eggs away and forced a smile. I guess I could ask Grandma for the recipe. You really want to make it? If I say yes, Dad would agree. But I could tell he was uncomfortable. I told him yes anyway. I really wanted to make it, so we drove all the way to the Asian supermarket to get adzuki beans and sesame oil. Before we even started, mochi flour got everywhere, dusting the kitchen. Dad got this idea to FaceTime Grandma, and she was all, how can I make the camera see me? Because, grandparents and technology. I let them fiddle with their phones as I stirred the Duke mixture, allowing my muscles to whip the flour and sugar water into a sweet, chewy mass of luck. And when Grandma finally got her phone working, Dad aimed the camera at me so she could watch. Are you counting? She asked, her voice scratchy with static. You need to stir 100 times. 100 is best. So I stirred 100 times, even after Dad offered to take over, even after my arms burned with all that luck. Puda, my beautiful girl, my grandmother said, and that was when I remembered the promise I'd made to myself at Dari's house. Grandma, I said, stepping away from the mixing bowl and massaging the ache on my arm. Dad was holding the phone, so talking to her was almost like talking to him at the same time, but not quite. Have you heard of the flower Korean fire? She didn't answer for a few seconds, and I thought maybe she didn't hear me. But it was just the phone lag. Flower? Fire in Korea? No, it's the name of a flower, I said. I glanced up at Dad, whose face was etched with discomfort. But I decided to ask anyway, because this was part of me too, and I wanted to be the whole me. It blooms in the snow, I told her, even when nothing else can. Grandma nodded. That is Korean people. We keep going, even in the worst time. Like when I take your dad to America and we grow, just the two of us, always growing. For a moment, I felt like a scientist, gathering little bits of research about myself and trying to analyze it. I looked at my pixely cell phone, Grandma, and said, Thanks, Halomi. Then I glanced over at Dad, afraid to see weirdness on his face. But when we locked eyes, he didn't look uncomfortable. Instead, he looked confused, as if he were hearing the word harmony for the first time. Parents are strange. I said goodbye to my grandmother and went back to the Duke. Dad and I made a little Duke balls together. By the time we were done, we had a whole tray of lumpy, squishy, fingerprinty treats, which were nearly as good as Mom's, but were still lucky. We ended up with more of a chewy exterior than an adzuki bean filling, So I took the extra Duke and made it long and stringy. I pressed it against Dad's upper lip, giving him a ridiculously bumpy pink mustache. I laughed, and Dad looked at me half amused and half worried, like, is there something wrong with my daughter? The best part was, Mom came downstairs in the middle of all this, and she smiled at Dad's Duke mustache, which made Dad smile for real, which made the Duke fall off his face. You guys made good luck, Mom said, coming over to us. She leaned against the kitchen counter and crossed her arms over her chest. It was Natalie's idea, Dad said, all happy and proud, even though I hadn't done anything at all except suggest doing the same thing we do every year. They aren't very good, though, I said. I felt a little self-conscious about them, like maybe she would be disappointed in Dad and me if the Duke didn't turn out right. Mom lifted a piece off the tray and took a bite. I pressed my fingernails in my palms, nervous, waiting, worried it wouldn't taste good, that it wouldn't be so lucky after all. But she smiled that faraway smile and said, very impressive. I tried to picture Mom's old smile, the huge, can't help it smile, where her top lip curled up a little to show her gums, and I couldn't quite see it anymore. But at last, Mom was smiling some kind of smile, which was good enough. More than good enough. Maybe. The smart part of my brain told me not to push my Duke luck, but I couldn't help myself. So I launched into the whole story about the baking, from the dough rolling to the FaceTiming. Mom listened and laughed in all the right places, even if we're far away listening, far off laughter. And the three of us ate all the Duke that day because we needed all the luck we could get. And, I think we got it, because Mom was there and we were happy. All that luck sat in my stomach, tight and full and good, and with all that goodness inside me, I knew I could win this competition. I could do this because I had Twig, and I had Dari, and I had the Duke, and I had luck. January 3rd, Assignment 30, Open Up. I had another appointment with Dr. Doris today. Even though school doesn't start back up until Monday, this felt like an official end to vacation. No more fun, time for therapy. Only, therapy was actually really good today, even if that feels weird to admit. I started off by telling Dr. Doris about the whole Duke extravaganza, and I went into detail and really opened up and expressed myself like Dad told me to. That was easy, I think, because telling the story made me happy. I would have told it again and again if Dr. Doris had let me. But Dr. Doris wanted to talk about Christmas too. At first I hesitated, because I was in a happy, fun family mode, but she kept saying, it's okay to talk to me, Natalie. This is a safe zone. Until today, my appointments with Dr. Doris have been filled with quiet, Natalie. Keep it in, Natalie. I would hold my breath and count the petals on her wilting flowers, and I would watch snow fall outside, but I would not speak. I would not speak, not about anything real, but the silence pressed around me, and everything that had happened on Christmas pounded in my head. And even though I knew this was a therapist trick, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told Dr. Doris about how Mom didn't come downstairs, about the eggs and everything. My present wasn't very good, so I didn't give it to her, I said when I finished. What do you mean? She asked. I bit my lip, realizing I'd maybe said something wrong. I shouldn't have gotten a plant? Mom's the plant expert, I explained, not me. I don't know why I said that. Dr. Doris waited for me to continue, but I didn't. What's your mother is going through, Natalie? It isn't your fault, she said, and she didn't sound like a therapist. She sounded like a nice lady who was saying something true. Why can't everything just be okay again? The question left my lips without permission. I could have spent a long time scientifically investigating that one. You will be okay, Natalie. She said it in that nice lady, true way again, and for one horrible second I wished that she were my mother. And then I felt guilty. Maybe that's why Mom stopped loving me, stopped trying for me, because I didn't love her enough, because I wasn't enough. Before our session was over, Doris asked me to tell my favorite story about Mom, and I realized I couldn't pick just one, because I have a good mother, and I love her, and I never truly wished for anyone else. Eventually, I would talk about the day in 4th grade when Mom picked me up from school in the middle of the day. Twig was in Paris that week, and Michaela had been ditching me during lunch, so I was eating alone. And at the end of the week, after I'd cried and told Mom how alone I felt, Mom called the office and told them we had a family emergency. I didn't realize, at first, what she was doing. During lunch period, I got called up to the principal's office, where I sat for 20 minutes and worried about the unknown emergency. By the time Mom got there, I was all freaked out until she ushered me into the car. We're going to the Arboretum, she explained. I thought she'd lost her mind. What's the emergency? I asked, like maybe she'd forgotten and needed to be reminded that our family was in danger. But she laughed and waved her hand. There's no emergency. I just thought you deserved a day off, and I missed my favorite daughter. In my memory, she is made of sunlight and fresh air. We drove to the Arboretum, and she told me about every single plant we saw. And it wasn't even boring because she had this way of making things fascinating. This is a willow, she said, running her hand along a thick, tall tree. The good goddess tree. The bark has been used to heal for many, many years. It's sometimes called nature's aspirin. When we passed the herbs, she knelt at the sage, fingering the silvery green leaves. The wisest herb, she said with a wink. Eating it increases brain function. As we wandered through the leaves and trees and flowers, I picked my favorites, and she said, "Good choice," for everything I listed. When we reached the end of the path and sat on a giant log in the middle of the woods, she pulled me against her and told me about the cobalt blue orchid. She told it to me like a legend or a myth. This is a flower that achieved the impossible, she told me. This flower survived in the face of chemicals and toxins, and it turned all that death into something beautiful. That miracle field, Natalie, that's the happiest place in the world. And when Mom talked about the orchids, she came alive. More alive than I'd ever seen her before. This was the first time she told me about her research. And even though I'd read about it in her book, hearing her talk about it, I truly understood the meaning of those words, the magic of her passion. Imagine what we could do with this orchid, she said. We have this flower that can grow in the face of toxic chemicals. If we could find some way to harness that healing ability and apply it to human cells, that would be more than a miracle. As she spoke, the flower became more and more magical, until I didn't care about lavender or lady ferns. The cobalt blue orchid became my favorite flower in the world, and that day was my favorite day. 2 weeks later, when Michaela's mom gave me my very own seed, Mom and I planted it together, very carefully, in perfect conditions, so it would bloom just for us. So it would soak up all the toxins in our lives and save us. When I finished telling the story, Doris smiled and said, "What a beautiful memory." And I smiled and nodded back, as if that's all it was. I tried not to show how excited the memory made me, because I didn't want to raise any red flags. But inside, I was bubbling with hope. I'd been managing my expectations, but now I was full of luck, and Mom was laughing again, and we were almost a happy, perfect family. I could win this competition. I would win. And finally, after months and months of darkness, Mom and I would have another flower. We would regrow that magic. Lavender and lady ferns and sweet violet. Red flags, possibly therapist's favorite term in the world. They see them everywhere. Trust me, I know.